The honourable member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Speaker, this evening I'd like to raise the issue of the Yazidi genocide in the House of Commons tonight. The Yazidi people are a highly persecuted ethnic and religious minority, primarily based in Iraq. They are some of the most persecuted people in the world. And in the last 2 years, they have suffered extreme atrocities at the hands of extremists within the religious majority in the area, and that is ISIS. These people have suffered rape, mutilation. Their people are in mass graves in the area, and their women have been taken as sexual slaves. In October, after much pushing, after many, many months, the House unanimously adopted a motion to prioritize Yazidi victims of genocide to come to Canada as refugees. Now, for people who are listening, Canada has two main ways of refugees coming into the country. First, privately sponsored refugees. Those come through the generosity of Canadians who have raised funds to sponsor refugees. And the other is through government-assisted refugees. And that's where the United Nations refers cases to Canada, and then the government pays for the sponsorship of our refugees. Madam Speaker, the sad reality is that exactly zero out of tens of thousands of refugees that have been referred to Canada by the United Nations have come from this group of people, and that is shameful. You know, I've had United Nations officials in my office. I've asked them why there isn't any cases being referred to Canada. They gave me they actually told me that because of the time constraints the government placed on them last year for the refugee initiative, that it was easier just to pick out of the religious majority in these camps. That's shameful because these people can't actually get to refugee camps in most cases. They're internally displaced and they can't get to refugee camps because they're persecuted the whole way there. And then when they get to the refugee camps, in order to make these United Nations lists, there's oftentimes great delays. We've heard allegations of discrimination against these people by UN processing agents. The reality is that they are not making these lists. They are not being referred to Canada. So that is an issue that the government needs to look at. But the reality is that there are non-governmental organizations on the ground that have been working very hard, that are highly reputable, that this government can use in order to bring those cases to Canada. That is completely within this government's jurisdiction. They should be doing that. But what have they done to date? They have not talked to any of these non-governmental organizations, and they're not working to bring these people here. We are now in February. This is almost 4 months after this motion has passed. We have heard, none of these non-governmental organizations have heard any word about how many Yazidi refugees are going to be processed, how they're going to come here. And this government, this weekend, the Prime Minister sent out this fairly asinine tweet saying, we're open and welcoming refugees, Madam Speaker. Where are the Yazidis? How come when I stand up in this House of Commons here, the government can't tell me how many Yazidis will come to Canada in the next couple of weeks? My gut sense is it's because it's lip service. They don't have a plan. They're not going to make the terms of this deadline. So my question is very, very simple tonight. How many Yazidis will the government bring to Canada by the end of the motion's deadline?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Labour.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and to my colleague from Calgary-Nose Hill, let me first explain that it's me that she's saddled with this evening as my colleague, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, is in Acadie Bathurst with his people attending to.
Tell the House who's here and who's not.
You would think a fellow would catch that after 17 years, Madam Speaker, but my apologies. But the member from Calgary-Nose Hill knows the respect I hold for her and her passion on this particular issue. Canadians have joined with the people all across the world to deplore the murderous actions of Daesh. Canada has been a key contributor in the international efforts to address the crisis and resettle those who have been displaced from their homes. Since November 4th, 2015, we have welcomed almost 40,000 Syrian refugees. Also, the Government of Canada has fulfilled its 2009 commitment to resettle 23,000 Iraqi refugees by 2015. And I'm pleased that all parties are cooperating to help the vulnerable Yazidi population, as evidenced by the unanimous support to bring Yazidis to Canada within 120 days. We are committed to meeting this 100-day time limit, but it is equally important to take the necessary time to do this right and to ensure that we have in place such things as settlement supports, welcoming communities, interpreters, and plans to meet the psychological and social needs of those we are welcoming. That is why, as the former minister said in his response to this question, we have been working very actively on a two-part strategy. We will bring individuals who are residing outside of Iraq, in Turkey and Lebanon, and while this work is being done, we will concurrently explore options for those residing in Iraq. That's those outside of Iraq, in Turkey and Lebanon, and inside Iraq. While we recognize the need for protection of victims of Daesh, Canadians realize the region's continued instability presents challenges in identifying and interviewing them, not to mention getting them out of Iraq while ensuring the safety of our immigration officers and members of vulnerable groups. The internationally agreed-upon approach to resettlement is to focus on refugees, in other words, those persons who have been forced to flee their country. Canada's resettlement program is designed to provide protection for refugees who are outside their country of origin. Individuals who have had to flee their home but remain within their home country are known as internally displaced people. Madam Speaker, the safety of individuals, staff, and partners is a top priority when developing operational plans. It takes considerable resources to process difficult-to-access populations. That said, the Government of Canada is looking at ways to respond to the challenges in northern Iraq. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada officials recently completed a third visit to the region. They interviewed a large number of Syrian refugees, as well as some internally displaced persons, and met with key partners to gather as much information as possible on the situation on the ground. Madam Speaker, Canada has a long, proud, and well-respected tradition of helping to protect persons in need. While we want to continue to be a world leader in this area, there isn't a quick fix. May I close with, we are continuing to explore options and do work with our partners in the region to respond to these challenges to determine how best to extend protection to these vulnerable populations in northern Iraq. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Madam Speaker, in the campaign in 2015, the Prime Minister used these words for resettling 25,000 refugees in 4 months. It's just a matter of political will. Yet, when it comes to the most vulnerable population, those who are facing genocide, persecuted ethnic and religious minorities in the region, the new talking point is, oh, we don't have enough time. We need more time. So I don't understand this. Why does this government refuse to prioritize genocide victims? This is 2 sets of criteria for 2 different religions. And that's crazy, and that's shameful. And I can tell you this, Madam Speaker, this House will hold the government to account for it. So once again, very simply, for the love of everything that's holy, how many Yazidis will the government bring to Canada by the end of this month? Thank you.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, again, we've made the commitment with the Yazidis to bring them here within 120 days. I don't think the member from Calgary-Nose Hill, would want to put our own officials in danger, would want to jeopardize the safety of any Canadians that are working hard to try to bring some resolve to this issue. We recognize that operating in the region is complex, it's dangerous, it poses risks, so it's imperative that we consider the next steps very carefully. That's why the Department has made a third visit to the region. They've interviewed a large number of Syrian refugees as well as some internally displaced persons. They met with key partners to gather more information. That is the prudent thing to do. We continue to explore options and to work with our partners in the region to respond to these challenges to determine how best to extend protection to these vulnerable populations, including the Yazidis. Thank you, Madam Speaker.